The Dharma, incomparably profound and exquisite, is rarely met with even in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. We now can see it, hear it, accept and hold it. May we realize the true mind of the Tathagata. So good afternoon, everybody. This is the fourth day of session, and Roshi had some other responsibilities she had to take care of, and so she asked me to talk a little bit about metta meditation or loving kindness meditation today. And we can start that out with doing a loving kindness meditation since we weren't able to do one earlier today. So let's begin by settling into the hara and just doing a quick scan of the body, running from the top of the head down through the face, neck, shoulders, just becoming aware of any tension or stuck energy, just becoming aware of the quality of the energy in the body. Maybe there's some pain or tension. Maybe there's a swirling sensation. So just embrace whatever quality of energy it is as you move down the body, down the spine, down through the hara, passing through the upper legs, the lower legs, and just grounding with the earth wherever you're connecting with the earth. Just becoming as aware as possible. Awareness itself is healing. So with that increasing awareness in the body, recall a time when you felt completely at home, completely safe, without a problem in the world, content with your spot in the universe. See if you can feel that way now. If it's associated with a particular place, put yourself there now in your imagination. Maybe you're in the forest somewhere, at the lakeside, or maybe in your favorite room at home, in a comfy chair. Just sink into that sense of well-being again. That sense of connection with all of life. It's embracing and enveloping you. And if it's hard to envision this sense of well-being from a memory, you can also visualize a golden healing light that emanates from the core of your being in your hara and envelops your whole being, just filling every cell with golden, embracing light. Maybe spilling out into the room where you are, just filling up the whole space with golden light. And see if you can continue to help that feeling grow, that feeling of contentment and peace, as you repeat these intentions silently. May I be deeply happy, fulfilled in my life, no matter what circumstances I find myself in. May I be safe, free from harm or sickness of any kind, mental or physical. May I be free from anxiety or worry and the mind states that can bring that up. May I be kind and empathetic in every encounter I have. May I be generous and thoughtful. May I be free from negativity, anger, frustration, or resentment. And if those feelings should come up, may I open to the energy that is the essence of those feelings, so I can experience it so completely it dissolves. And just as I wish to be happy, may all beings be happy and fulfilled in their lives. May all beings be safe, free from violence, war, famine, or sickness. May all beings be free from anger, judgment, self-hatred. And if those feelings should come up, may they too explore the roots of those feelings and free themselves. May all beings open to deep peace within and live from that understanding of life itself, so they may live in harmony with all other beings. So that's one example of how one can do loving kindness meditation. The idea is to fully open to the intention to feel that way, both towards yourself and towards all life. It makes a really big difference. Because we are all one being, when one person truly feels and wishes for everyone's peace and joy and clarity, everyone can feel it, even if it's not on a conscious level. It's one way we can make an impact on people who seem far away, like the earthquake victims in Turkey and Syria. We can send material help, but we can also do this type of loving kindness meditation. It can help ease the suffering, even if it's not felt on a conscious level. And the intentionality itself is important. For a long time, I resisted doing loving kindness meditation because I wanted to just do my practice as hard as I could and have an awakening, and then it would be fine. I could just do metta meditation then, and it wouldn't feel like a waste of sesshin time. But the reason we take about 10 minutes every day during sesshin to do this, and then we return to our regular practice afterwards, is because it's really helpful to get in touch with that sense within, that desire to feel this way, because awakened mind is always within us. It's not separate from our own awareness at any point, but we don't recognize it because of patterns in the mind. And deep within all of us is a desire to awaken, to free ourselves from these patterns. And so if we can connect with that intentionality, that desire to be free, to live in deep peace, to live in harmony with all beings, along with the desire to wish that for others, it comes from that, a place within that knows that we are all one, and that there's an understanding beyond suffering, beyond ideas of separateness. And so it helps us connect with that a little bit more, to have that intentionality, to have that wish, to live in a way that we would if we were fully realizing our Buddha nature. So all of us human beings have patterns that prevent us from fully expressing it. Even if we can see it, it's still hard to live from it fully, like the Buddha did, and perhaps like the Dalai Lama and some other deeply enlightened people. But the more we can connect with that desire to live in that way, it helps us to actually do so. You know, as we go deeper in our practice and we have realizations and we see things more clearly, when we recall that we have this desire to live in a harmonious way, it helps us change those patterns in daily life. I have something in my eye that really hurts, so that is why I'm blinking a lot. But it's okay. I have this intention that I want to fully embrace and receive everything that comes to me, and that includes eye pain right now. And metta meditation has helped me do that. I, for a long time, was not able to, I don't feel, integrate my practice very well into daily life. And the more I've gotten into the loving kindness meditation, it really helps me remember why I want to practice, and that I do want to live in a way that brings peace and healing to everybody around me, because that is the potential of practice. And it's also important to do loving kindness meditation because it helps erode other types of patterns. A lot of us, society, are have a negativity bias within our own minds, either because of conditioning growing up or conditioning from society, probably both for a lot of people. And so when we do the loving kindness meditation, we can really sort of combat those patterns from another angle. We have our breath meditation that we do, and as we focus on that breath meditation, the Susokan, our energy and attention becomes very focused, and we can see beyond these patterns. It might take us a while, but that is something that can happen, and hopefully will happen for all of us the further we go in our practice. And that's the primary way that we practice, is that developing that attention and awareness beyond thoughts, using the breath, using the koan, whatever our practice is. But when we can also, for just a few minutes a day, get in touch with that desire to experience life differently than we do, and experience our own beingness in a different way. Often, because of that negativity bias, we tend to go around in our day-to-day life creating stress for ourselves, living in a pretty anxious or at least stressed out state. A lot of us do, and we have a negative view of ourselves, can be kind of hard on ourselves, drive ourselves to do more or be more, produce more, and that creates that particular pattern as a barrier that we have in our practice. It's something that we work through on the cushion. And when we can sort of counteract it from another angle, of I want to feel really good instead of really bad all the time, it sort of helps us see that the pattern is there to begin with, and helps us realize how much we would like to live in a different way, and how we can too, because once you get a sense for how it can feel when you're not haranguing yourself, or when you aren't holding on to a negative view of yourself, you get that sense of possibility. It can really help inspire deeper practice too. So there are lots of benefits to even just a short amount of loving kindness meditation. For our formal practice and our day-to-day lives, it can help a lot with our relationships too. When we have a habit of remembering that we want to live in a deeply harmonious way, and we want to get out of our own way as much as possible and live from a place of just basic well-being, it can help a lot with that too. It's important, however, to point out that when we are doing a deep practice, a practice towards awakening, it's important to have the focused practice be our primary means of doing that. Sometimes when people try a bunch of different meditation practices and kind of do a hodgepodge, a little bit here, a little bit there, then the analogy is that it's somebody who's trying to dig a well and get to water, but they keep digging a bunch of tiny shallow holes and then they never get to the water. So in Zen, we always definitely want to focus on using our formal practice, the Susoka and the Koan, to really plumb the depths. But it's also good to balance it out with just a little bit of the loving kindness meditation as an antidote to the negativity that we often carry around within our own minds, within our bodies. So another important element of the loving kindness meditation is the body scan itself, because a lot of us, no matter what our profession, we tend to have a lot of our attention focused in our heads and on screens, computers, phones, whatever it is. And so we're just not aware of what's going on in our body a lot of the time. And that's called proprioception. And so just having more awareness of what's going on in the body can go a long way towards recognizing patterns that we hold that cause suffering, that are barriers to opening to who we really are. And so as we practice becoming aware of those energies in the body, sensations, just the sense of being in the body itself, can also help us in our path towards awakening, because to really have a deep opening and to really live it, you have to be 100% present. There's no less than 100% there. And so the way to get there is to become aware of what's going on in the body. So when you have some sort of feeling come up that normally you'd want to run from, you can tune into the physical sensation, the quality of the energy, and become one with it, as Mitra-roshi would say. You embrace it fully, you experience it so fully that it basically, it's not exactly like it dissolves. You just recognize that it's you, it's your energy, it's all of life. It's not separate from you. It's not anything but just awareness energy that kind of got twisted by our own minds into something else. And that something else could be fear. A lot of the time it's fear, underlying things, anger, anxiety, sadness. All of those emotions show up in the body in a certain quality of energy, tension in the body, pain, tingling sensations. So the more awareness we can have of what's going on in the body, the more we can clarify patterns that obstruct us from seeing who we really are. And they also help us live from that understanding once we do see who we really are and recognize that those patterns are, I would say, less than nothing, but they're just not real. And so the way to get to that place is to fully open to those feelings in the body as they come up. Not as a distraction from practice, but as part of your awareness as you're going deeper in the breath, as you're traveling with the breath to the end of its natural, to the end of the natural breath, to just be aware of what's going on in the body as you're doing that. It can be helpful. And again, it has to be balanced with the single-pointed concentration of Zen that is so freeing, where you forget everything but the breath and you're just riding that breath to the very end. There's nothing else but that breath and that question at the end of the breath. But when there's something going on, something distracting you, you don't even know what it was, just some sort of amorphous thing that's there, that's when you can use this practice to tune in to what's happening, because often there's something underlying that pattern, whether it's a thought, habit, or just a pattern of energy that we hold. I'm very good at holding tension in my body and creating just bodily stress as a pattern in and of itself. It used to be driven by some inner demons that are not there anymore. So I have this wonderful freestanding pattern of creating tension. And so I'm working right now on reversing that and letting it go through this method of just proprioception, of awareness, of tuning in. The felt sense, described by Eugene Gendlin in his book by the same name, The Felt Sense, can be very freeing in the process of deepening and getting to a place where we can really live from an understanding of who we really are. And then, of course, as I mentioned, it also helps free up habit patterns that prevent us from seeing that in the first place. So I hope this makes sense, that this whole approach is it's a vital part of practice, that in some ways you can think of it as an adjunct practice, but it's often an integral part of how we get to awakened mind, is by becoming aware of patterns that prevent us from seeing, and then becoming aware of and letting go of patterns that prevent us from living from a deeper place. Loving kindness meditation, body scan, being aware of the body, being as present as possible, fully opening to and becoming one with whatever comes up. That's the path to freedom, just personal freedom, freedom from suffering that we create all the time, and freedom from difficulty with other people or situations, because the more we become aware of these patterns, the less likely we are to behave in ways that make situations difficult for others and for ourselves. So I wonder if anybody has any other comments about loving kindness meditation, what they found helpful about loving kindness meditation, or just something they'd like to say or ask.
How about when you're working with the, how do you say, proprioception?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you try to stay in touch with that a bit just through the day, or is it only when you're sitting on the cushion?
So yeah, so the question was the proprioception of if I am trying to be aware throughout the day, or is it just when I'm on the cushion? And yes, it's all the time.
Is
Trying
it?
to, yeah,
Okay.
really live as much as I can from a fully present place. And so, you know, as Roshi is talking about a lot in Teisho, just receiving whatever comes and becoming fully present, just being fully present. And so whatever comes, that's your experience. And I am very good at not being in my body. So for me, it's a really important aspect of my practice to be in my body as much as I can and be as aware as possible through the body. You know, awakened mind is accessible at any moment. It's just a matter of paying enough attention, truly. And so the more attention we pay in our daily life, going about doing things, that awareness of who we really are, that awakened mind state is there all the time. It's just a matter of being aware enough. And so what I'm trying to do is be 100% aware all the time so that I can live from a deeper understanding and be of greater service. And so just to clarify, I feel like I've said it, but just to make sure everyone knows that this practice, it's not, in some ways, you know, it kind of depends on where you're at in practice. For some people, you want to really focus on the breath practice and really completing each breath fully, extending it as far as you can with that questioning. It might feel like too much to try to add in other things like the proprioception, and so it might be best to save that for loving kindness meditation times or other times when you're doing yoga, for example. That's the kind of thing that would really be best to work with your teacher on, because depending on where you're at in practice, it might be more of a distraction during sitting to do that. So that would be a really good question for your teacher.
I have something.
Yes.
Since I was last here, Roshi recommended that I do extra metta practice.
Oh, awesome.
And I've been making an effort to a couple times a week do a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been listening to a metta teacher, Rob Burbea, who has a lot of
cool
talks on Dharma Seed. But he talks about sometimes the intentions don't facilitate anything, and that's okay. You're planting seeds for later. And that was really helpful.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's such a really good point too. Yeah, that it is planting seeds. It's you are connecting with the part of you that wants to be whole and wants to feel the way that you're wishing in the loving kindness meditation. And so it might feel like nothing's happening at the beginning, especially when you're not used to doing it, which is why I kind of didn't do it for a long time. and it is like, it does feel like planting seeds. That's how it felt like for me too. I was like, wow, this felt like a waste of time. It was 10 minutes. I could have just been doing Suzukan. But it just helps. It's almost like so many layers of concrete you have to chisel through to get to a place where practicing the loving kindness meditation feels very natural and very like, of course, it takes a lot of time and energy working with habit patterns that are very strongly going the other direction. And so it definitely feels like planting seeds. That's a great way to put it. And I feel like that was true in my experience. Thank you.
Yes. Comment as well.
Yes.
So Tonglen is this related kind of thing where you're breathing in the pain of other folks and then breathe out peace and healing.
Mm-hmm.
which I've also found both of those practices have been really helpful for me when I feel very stuck,
Mm-hmm.
or like things have been really like, whatever,
Yeah.
just blown up. And then I also noticed you guys do a very different variation of metta here.
Oh yeah.
So I was wondering if you could talk about that, because I don't know.
Yeah. So I haven't done that much research on metta, so I just sort of did it the way Roshi does, and then kind of modified it a little bit. The way it makes sense to me is because so many people do have a habit of being very negative towards themselves, and that's such a heavy pattern that that's the most important place to start with. And so to really focus on trying to feel good and just feel positive towards yourself can go a long way to reversing that pattern, even if it seems to take a long time or seems impossible at the time. And I know there are other ways of doing like a gradation with the metta, where you first you focus on yourself, and once you're good at that, then you focus on somebody close to you,
somebody that you like.
Then somebody neutral, then somebody you don't like, and then all beings. So we just don't do that because we only do it for like 10 minutes.
Okay.
And the main point of it is to kind of help people like reverse that pattern within themselves, because I don't think very many people get past the first stage anyway, because you have to really be able to wish it for yourself to really wish it for anyone else.
Good point.
So I think if you rush that stage, then
then you just
then it's just
for other people.
Then it becomes I don't know. But the power of it is to really focus on healing yourself, because we're all one, right? So the more you can focus on yourself, you're not. It's not that you're not focusing on all beings, or the people in the different gradations. People who are close to you will more naturally feel it, because they're close to you. People you're friends with, people you're near, will feel it more strongly or more likely to feel it. But all beings are aware of it, and it impacts all beings when you just focus on yourself. So it's not a selfish thing. It's the same. If you wish loving kindness for yourself, you are wishing it for all beings. And then in terms of the Tonglen, I think that's a pretty advanced practice, and I think unless people are really at a place where they can truly wish loving kindness for themselves and can really master that, I think Tonglen would be hard to do it. I don't know. I mean, I think it would be hard to do for people.
It's probably hard if you're actually doing it. But even just like faking it, kind of. It's helpful.
I think if it's helpful, then
I don't know how much it's effective, but it's helpful.
Seeds again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I think the whole thing, like whatever makes sense to you, and whatever works in your practice makes sense. And I think it all is very individual too. It's a matter of kind of seeing what's powerful for you, and then working with a teacher is always an important caveat too, because it's really easy to get into blind alleyways and dig shallow holes and think we're doing something in my practice. I mean, I've done it, so. I think that's why we're all here. We recognize that it's important to have a teacher. So.
Grayson, what was the name of the whoever you were consulting for this?
I was just listening to. He passed away a couple years ago, but his name's Rob Burbea, and he was the Gaia House head teacher in the Vipassana tradition. But he has all of his retreat lectures and guided meditations are online, and he's got this beautiful, silky English accent, and he can really coax you into some.
That sounds great. That sounds worth checking out for sure. Oh, and that reminds me, actually, another thing that I do consciously do differently, and I'm pretty sure this is why Roshi does it too, because I asked her about it once. The focusing on a time when you felt really, really good and safe, and this sense of contentment and peace. It helps remind you that you have felt that way before, so it makes it a little easier. Some of the traditional metta meditation does have you focus on somebody very loving towards you, and then trying to feel that way towards yourself, and then kind of going through that tends to bring up a lot of it can bring up a lot of difficult feelings, and kind of you can get caught up in like a story about who that person was, as opposed to if it's a sort of nondescript feeling, it's easier to stay out of the story because the story is a big distraction, or it can be. So that's one thing that I know is also different, and that's why I do it, because I personally would just get into the story. So I try to keep it just more specific on the feeling. But it's whatever works. Like if that's your safe place, is remembering, your grandmother or something, then you should do it that way. That's why I leave it purposefully pretty open. So just whatever works for you is good. Any other comments or
Well, I think that's
questions?
what you're saying, but then again, maybe I would be one prone to getting lost in the story too, is that it is true that there are certain people you can think of, I think, especially in the very, very earliest childhood, who had a calming effect on you. Maybe they were always the nurturing sort of one. And if you can recall them just for an instant, even, you can find suddenly that you were holding tension in all these places you were not aware of, and you just relax because they're there again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's really powerful too. Any early childhood memory like that, it's just ingrained in the cells of your body almost.
That's
I mean,
it
literally is. There's research that it is. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Makes sense.
So,
And
yeah.
I felt
Any,
that.
yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything like that. Wow, these were such really, really great comments. So it was really good to be with everybody today. Thanks again for just an amazing session, and I know we'll just continue to have a good session. And we'll end the talk now. Roshi will be back tomorrow for Teisho. Take care.